while all the time remaining on the leads, watching the leads. So if you're not done it properly, you're committed, and the ship doesn't respond, you go on the reef. You go on the reef. So somebody can answer, no? I don't know where I can get this answer.
I'll get you the answer.
Hey, don't give satisfactory reply.
I'll get it from the engineers.
Hmm.
I have a good team of chief engineers with me.
Yeah, how
So,
best can I, from a dead slow head, even for suppose the ship is stopped going at very slow speed. Suddenly, I just want to go that's what half a head, even full head burst. How fast can I get? Why do I have to go through those steps of spending about 10, 5, 6 seconds on very slow head RPM? When the RPM is reached, then you go to the next one, and when that next RPM is reached, and then you go to the higher one. Hi, good morning, Gajanan.
good morning.
Hi,
Morning.
sir.
Hi,
Namaste, namaste, namaste.
Yeah,
Thank you.
how are
I was
you?
hearing some engineering discussions,
Yes.
so I thought let me absolve from it.
no, I thought you guys क्या पूरा दोबारा क्या देखने का हो गया ना अभी I thought you were not coming. अच्छा, okay.
No, I was coming because I was so busy this morning. We
Mhm.
have first time nominated a pilot for the bravery award of IIMO also. So I wanted AMSA to join with us to apply for a bravery award because AMPA as such has a no international standing so far. So today since morning 9 o'clock to 11:20, on team calls from AMSA office, asking our credentials, giving their credentials, submitting a form, talking to the, AMSA's Secretary General, Alan Schwartz. So, it was all like Zoom calls going on back to back with them. And somehow they have agreed now
Oh,
that
very good.
yes, we, AMPA and them will apply together for
Excellent.
this.
See, for this bravery
Uh,
award,
it was a,
there's a discussion going
feat
on.
applauded by many people in Australia.
Right. So this for this bravery award, my take has been because we are doing a lot of these deliberations and CMI, which you must be aware of. So there was this particular case of that one particular company's vessel which picked up the people, survivor, the master picked up. And so they are wanting that that master should be given a bravery award. My take is that if there is a person in water and I pick up the person and rescue him, then that is my duty at sea. It's a
Yes.
regular duty.
Yes.
I'm
Right.
not I'm not doing anything exceptional. So this bravery should actually be something which should be done exceptionally. I mean, if there was a TRS around and I pick up the survivors and I have to do some heavy maneuvering of all the ones which you just said, using my engines and everything, then that is an exceptional bravery on my part. And that ship should be acknowledged for that. But if there is somebody who is there is some yacht which is going by, and there are people who are already in the yacht, and I've just picked them up. I just happen to be there next to them.
Yeah.
Does it cause any exceptional bravery on my part to be there? That's the question.
Means your you should have displayed some exceptional ship handling skills, or you
Correct.
should have taken some risks. That is
Correct.
what it is like. And like
Correct.
in this case, what Captain Gajanan we are proposing, this
Right.
Captain Amalia,
Okay.
he has taken some risks to his personal career. uh, in that Torres Strait reef, he has maneuvered his big lumbering Aframax tanker to quickly
Okay.
turn around in those high winds and currents, turn around
Hmm.
and pass, within meters close of that man, chuck the boy and manage to pick him up. On 3 times they
That
lost
is
and they got him back. That is something exceptional.
that is
Yeah,
exceptional.
if something had gone wrong, no, you would have been facing the court. No, you damaged the reef, you caused pollution, you did this.
Right.
You who are you? What is this? You could have, why couldn't you wait for the helicopter? Blah 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 blah. You know.
So there's
Yeah,
a lot of
very true. I mean, this is exactly we did today. And today afternoon, after this meeting is over, 2 o'clock, we are getting Ritesh Bamaria online. Because I want to record that 30 minutes of his narration of the incident. So that also we can put it on record to IMO. This is he himself is speaking about the incident.
correct.
Not only something is typed in the nice words and, eloquent English. and that doesn't test for the merit, but it is a real incident narrated from the horse's mouth as to
Absolutely.
not how he did it, but first why he did it. You know,
True.
I mean, what you said is right. You know, absolutely correct. And I was involved in one of the rescues like this in 2002 in Australia.
Yeah.
Of course, it was a calm weather situation. Boat was sinking, engine room, bilges hold and all that. And I got those fellows on board. That was very, of course, AMSA gave me that time plaque and all that, which is still lying in my house. But still, it was a normal thing that time. But this was a pilot's call. And master told him very clearly that I'm not responsible for this. If you want to
Okay.
do it on your own, you do it. Otherwise, let's continue with our voyage. And he
Okay.
takes the call. And as rightly Capt Pande said, Torres Strait regulation and rules, they put the entire responsibility of navigation on to the pilot, nothing
Right.
on to master.
Right.
So as I said rightly, something would have gone wrong. He would have been taken to the task and the courts.
Okay. Okay.
That's actually you are trying to protect the environment. You're making it so stringent that when the person's life is in danger in that same ecology place, the person has to think twice: should I go save him or not? That's also not good, no, about the
Yeah.
regulations. That should not be like a sword. If you're successful, wow, wow. If you're not, you're not good. That's not the
Not
rules.
good.
No, it should not be true. You should not be able to choose that way.
Right.
Anyway,
We'll start ours. Yeah.
it's time to start.
Yes, please. Please.
We can what's that?
Yes. Is the class all there right now?
I will just take a sip of water.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Do you need the introduction again or
Yeah, I'll just give a brief one. Good afternoon, class. Good morning, class. Like we discussed yesterday when I announced, we have a guest lecture today. We have Captain Gajanan, who is the chairman, who is the president of the All India Marine Pilots Association, and we have Captain Sanjeev Pande also, very very senior master and a pilot at the Hage. They're going to be talking about the pilot ladder regulations and the safe manner in which to rig the pilot ladder and all the requirements which are there from a pilot's perspective from the ship. So since you all are going to be the future chief officers, it's important for you all to absorb this and then carry this forward on board. So I welcome Captain Gajanan and hand over to you, sir. This is the phase one class. They'll be here with us for 3 months and they're the future mates. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Captain Sareen. Very good morning to the class and your faculties, yourself, Captain Pandey. Good morning to you.
Morning.
Thank you very much for the opportunity of this kind of series that AMPA is doing to bring in the awareness about the pilot ladder. And it gives us an immense pleasure to address the chief officers class because chief officer is the responsible person for the safety equipments on board, and pilot ladder is a part of the form E of safety equipment certificate. So he should know how the upkeep is to be done. Number one, number two, how it's to be rigged in order to not endanger somebody's life who has trusted the ship's crew in climbing pilot ladder. Captain Pandey is very eloquent speaker. He explains things very well from bottom of his heart than a theoretical approach. So that's one advantage for you all, that you are getting it from the person who has been there, and he is not shy of admitting that he didn't know much about it about 8 months back. So when he himself has corrected himself, we all stand to be corrected at one point in time. And the major takeaway from this lesson or this small lecture of 1 hour for you will be how to unlearn things. We have something called as a familiarization of danger. We see something and that becomes so familiarity to us that we don't see any danger anymore. And you would see in Captain Pandey's presentation now that he will make you unlearn things, make you unlearn wrong practices, and then take you through a journey of do's and don'ts and how to do it correctly, with emphasis and how the things are evolved with the pilot ladder and things like that. I'm very grateful to have him on AMPA's editorial board also. He helps us immensely with creating knowledge about pilot ladder and other pilotage matters. So Captain Pande, just to introduce him a little, I mean, just briefly, he's a 73-75 batch TS Rajendra cadet, and thereafter he was in Sindhiyas, then he was in different foreign companies, including Kisan Chanchalaram, and his pilot stint started somewhere in 2001, where, of course, you know, he was a instructor for Silpatani Maritime, and then he took up to his first love kind of pilotage. He was a pilot with Pipavav port for 10 years. So you're going to hear it from the person who has been a lecturer, who has been, of course, a master mariner to start with, who has been a lecturer, who has been a pilot, and who is not, just giving you a theoretical knowledge, sharing his practical experiences, with respect to the, pilot ladders, do's and don'ts. Without further ado, I would welcome Captain Pandey on the floor and hand it over to him. I would request everyone to have undivided attention to this class, because this class is being taken by AIMPA with a lot of pains, lot of efforts. So it's not just coming online and giving you some gyan, but lot of thought process and lot of industry involvement is involved in doing this lecture. So please do accord to it and pay a full attention. Thank you very much, sir. Captain Pandey, over to you.
Thank you, Captain Gajanan, and thank you, Captain Serene, for having me here again. Good morning, gentlemen, and all the introductions are done. बहुत सारा तारीफ हो गया, no problem. Let's get on with it. I will start my sharing. We will first start with a few videos. Can you hear me? See me?
Loud and clear, sir. Loud and clear.
Okay. So let's start with a video. We'll sort of give you a quick summary of what a pilot ladder and how it's to be rigged and regulations behind it. Here it starts.
Let's start with some indoor checks while the bosun lays out the pilot ladder for inspection. Let's see if the pilot ladder is certified. If you have a second pilot ladder, make sure that it is certified as well. There you go. As long as you're there, few more things to check. Check the planned maintenance system. When was it put into use? Check that you have an inventory maintained for the record of pilot ladders. If the pilot ladder was ever repaired, check how it was done and when. Make sure that it was inspected by class. Now, this is a tricky question. Where would you get this information? When was it inspected by class? Well, pilot ladder is part of your safety equipment certificate. The last SEQ certificate inspection date is when it was last inspected by class. There you go. That's the date we are looking for. Now that we have finished the indoor checks, let's go on deck and inspect the ladder. Carry out your physical inspection of the ladder. It should all be in clean condition. Inspect the side ropes and the wedges. There should not be any missing wedges. The side rope should have a firm grip. Make sure it is in order. That's a bad example. Should not be like that. Let's inspect the steps now. The steps should be clean. They should not be painted. They should all have non-slip surface, including the rubber steps. Check the condition of the rubber steps, that they are not cracked. Once again, they should be clean, firmly fixed. Spacing should be even. Look at that, a broken and cracked step. Make sure you don't have that. That's a very shabby ladder which could come off at any point. Make sure that the side of the ladder is marked with heights along the length. There you can see 6 meters, 5 meters, 4 meters, and so on. We're going to inspect the spreaders now. Check the condition of the spreaders. There should not be any cracks, should be firmly fixed. Spacing should be even. Let me show you an example of a very, very badly fixed spreader that's really dangerous. So this is the marking which relates your ladder with the certificate. It should be clearly marked. The pad eyes on deck should be color coded with SWL, unlike this one which has no markings at all. The pilot axis should be firmly marked on deck in clean condition. The duty officer must be checking this, unlike this one. The pilot ladder must be marked with tags for easy identification with your PMS. The length of the ladder should be enough to reach the water line in any condition. Now that we have finished with the static checks, we are going to go for the rigging of the ladder. Let's rig it up. The rigging of the ladder must be done safely under supervision of a responsible officer. The ladder must be made fast on deck firmly using the pad eyes on deck, using strong shackles. There should be a life buoy next to it with a line and a light, but the line should not be connected to the buoy. It should be firmly resting on the ship side with all the steps touching the ship side, and the area should be free of discharges. Look at that ladder. It's a very poor rigging. None of the steps are touching the ship side. If there is a tripping line, there's a right way to connect it. It should not be fastened to the bottom part of the ladder below the spreader. It should always be above the spreader level. The illumination of the area should be adequate, which is usually provided by the deck lights, especially the searchlight on the bridge wings. People rigging should be wearing proper personal protective equipment, including safety harness, life jackets where necessary. The pilot ladder should be firmly fastened to the ship side. You can see there's a magnetic clip over here. There can be other systems to fasten it. That's a very, very wrongly rigged ladder that can come apart any moment. Now, the height above the waterline must be suited to the pilot's requirements, and it should never be touching the water. The pilot axis should be checked by the duty officer after rigging. There should be a safe access for the pilot to come up. That's an example of a very, very unsafe access. It should not be this way. If you are connecting man ropes as required by the pilots, they should be between 28 to 32 mm Manila ropes only. Let's go for rigging a combination ladder and see what are the precautions to be taken over there. Now, if the freeboard of the ship is more than 9 meters, a combination ladder must be used. A single pilot ladder should not be used. Anyone who's involved in rigging of the combination ladder should always be wearing safety harness and life jackets. Proper PPE should be worn. Now, some ships are using a fall preventer device attached with a harness. This is extremely useful and increases the safety. The angle of inclination of the gangway should not be more than 45 degrees. That's the inclinometer of the gangway, as you can see. The gangway or accommodation ladder should always be leading aft of the ship. It should also be connected firmly, attached to the ship side. The pilot's climb is expected to be between 1.5 to 9 meters, not less than 1.5, not more than 9 meters, and the pilot must be escorted to the bridge when he arrives.
So now we'll carry on with a few dramatic videos. One is of a pilot boarding in the rough weather. See the skill and the timing and the danger. I like the arrangement which they made on this pilot. Pilot was high up, especially on the platform. His legs are far away from the could be installed out that go in a flash. There is falling waste off. See another one here and try. Here, poor chap, the pilot falls in the water. Here, he's a bit too eager. He hasn't got a proper hand, and there he is. It could have easily happened to the earlier chap also. Now, I don't know what happens to him, whether he's rescued or not, this incident that we don't know. See, the life buoy is being chucked. It doesn't have a heaving line. Heaving line makes a nuisance. Heaving line is later. When you're coming close, then you throw the heaving line to pick the person up. So now we'll go to the presentation and followed by one really interesting video. It will be useful as more like a question and answer. So why this lecture? Too many fatalities, injuries, and repeated deficiencies. This is not just me saying it. It's been done by a proper survey by the International Maritime Pilots Association in the last 6 to 7 years. They've done several studies at intervals, and they found that the percentage error of 20% is way too high. 20% is just too high. Each of the errors is a potential for fatality. It doesn't happen. You know that that pyramid of what you call probabilities, where you have to start with lots and lots of near misses. Finally, you have a fatality on top. But unless you have the near misses, it doesn't start. So this 20% has to come way, way, way down. Must be wrong, and hence this lecture. And why does this deficiency occur? Is because of lack of awareness of the provisions in the governing standards and of best practices. There are some good practices which pilots across the regions have developed, and which I'll be showing you what the best practice is. And what the purpose of lecture is to let you know what the best practice currently is. So we won't talk much about specifications, rules and regulations. We will talk about practical things. First, most important I feel is the ladder should be secured properly. Many methods are being used, creative methods are used. Only one of them is a good seaman leg method. And that's what we will emphasize in this lecture today. Second part is maybe properly secured, but then they're rigged too low. The logic of the seafarers being, oh, if it's too long, we can always use the tripping line and heave it up so that the pilot boat, when he comes underneath, it doesn't foul with him. And then the pilot, when he's about to step on, we just ease the tripping line so we can get on the ladder and start coming up. So it saves you the bother of, really checking and being careful about how long the ladder is. Just send the bosun and he puts something out over the side and he says, yeah, okay, how much? Over 3 meters? You were told 3 meters of water. Yes, yeah, yes, 3 meters. Nobody actually checked that. And that is where a lot of problems start. Towards the end of the lecture, I'll show you on video, you will see what I'm talking about. Then people will be surprised that there are a lot of injuries and mishaps occur when you're transferring from a pilot boat or from a ship to a pilot boat, when the freeboards involved are low, 1.5 meters climb or less. So that becomes very tricky, where both, because the small ships, they are also quite active and toss around in the waves, and also a pilot boat. So it becomes a very tricky thing in a seaway. Large ships, at least the ship remains quite steady, and it's only the pilot boat which is jumping about. So the pilot can really time his transfer. But in a low freeboard, both are jumping and he cannot know who's doing what. It's a matter of 50-50, very dangerous. Anyway, let's go further. Then there's about confusion about when to rig a combination ladder. There's a confusion about the climb and the height, 9 meters. And some other matters we will see, miscellaneous matters. Let's go systematically. Here it starts. So first of all, you must understand that the whole pilot ladder system consists of regulations, standards, and operating practices. So SOLAS and IMO prescribe what should be available for the ship. ISO mostly deals with the specification standards to which a ladder should be manufactured and constructed. And ISM code deals with good practice, being all the time aware if something happens to learn from the mistakes. That's what the ISM code is about. It is not static. It is all the time upward learning, kind of a chain system. So any of this, if you're weakened, the system can fail. It's like a chain. The weakest is as strong as the weakest link. All have to be good. All have to be well known. You must know the regulations. You must use ladders which are properly approved, ISO standard, and you must always follow the procedures and practices prescribed in the ISM code as per our ship's safety management system. So let's start with the first part, securing the ladder. The pilot ladder specifications say that the top end of the ladder is to end in 2 thimble eyes. And those thimble eyes you attach to the ship's deck. There is the strong points using good shackles. And then the rest of the ladder you pay out over the side, and that's it. But that assumes that the height of the lower step in that kind of a full length the ladder is deployed would meet the requirements of the pilot. But that will be extremely rare and almost never. Most of the time, all the time in fact, you have to ensure that the lower step is at a certain height, and that too suited for your ship's freeboard at the boarding position. So what we call this length, which is not the full length of the ladder, is called the intermediate length. The regulations don't describe or specify how a ladder is to be secured so that at an intermediate length it is safe. So intermediate length, just to clarify again, means adjusted length of the ladder so that it meets the desired height above the water of the lowermost step at the ship's current freeboard at the boarding position. So what happens? Seafarers are very inventive, very resourceful. So what do? In the absence of such clear guidance, everyone comes up with some sort of a solution. And over a period of time, wrong practices, bad practices come about, mishaps have occurred, analysis has been done, and then over time, some better methods have been devised. One method, which we're talking about in this lecture. Other methods should not be used. They are not good practice. ISM code requires that you always employ best practice. It need not be a regulation, but best practice industry-wide is recommended. That's what you should use. And therefore, in that way, under ISM, you can just say that this is almost like you're required to do this. You might say, where's the regulation? There's no regulation. It's best practice. And why? On the ISM code, best practice is what you should use. So if you use wrong methods, you will risk damaging your ladder. And if you have a damaged ladder, make it unfit. So you can't provide an unfit ladder to the pilot. Remember, in the video we saw, you're supposed to inspect it. And if you find something wrong, You cannot just hide it and say, well, we'll just slip it over the side and maybe the pilot won't observe, or maybe nothing will happen, maybe he won't complain. That's not right. If something were to happen, investigation will show that the ladder was, it can be easily found out. Forensically, you can find out whether the damage was before or did it occur during the transfer. And very soon you found out before, then you're in trouble. You're responsible officer. That's what it means. You're responsible. And another thing you must bear in mind, because ladders have to be certified and provided by an approved manufacturer, you can no longer carry out repairs on board. They provide you 2 replacement steps. That too, they are certified from the same supplier, approved manner in which they have to be fitted. And if you have more than 2 replacement steps, you cannot use a ladder. You have to get a new one, or get it repaired, or whatever. So if you're securing ladders improperly, you will quickly damage them, and you quickly run out of ladders. And can you imagine telling the owners, or the charters, or whoever, why I don't have a pilot? Because I didn't rig it properly, it got damaged, and now I don't have a send it please by helicopter. So let's see what these bad practices are. One we're talking about is these tongues. They call them tongues, or some people call them brackets. Here, this kind of a bracket, they just quick, very handy thing it is. Quick, looks very nice. This is not a approved thing. Some fitter, somebody has lug out his brains and done this practice, and it spread like wildfire all across a lot of ships all over the world. So this is wrong. This puts the strain on the wooden step and onto the fixtures. This is not correct. It will damage the ladder. Here it is hooked on. One wave will come. It will take it off, unhook it, and next thing you know, there is nothing tying the ladder. It is secure. Here, the ladder is secured to the ship's railing. The railing is not a designated strong point. It is a weak structure. This is not right. Never secure to railings. Secure only to designated strong points. Well, over here they use the strong point, but then they use shackles. Shackles are not good practice. Not to be used. Avoid. When you go on board your ship next time, if you see this being done, out. Not to do this. You see, when the strain comes on the ladder, you'll find that it's clamped and the rope will get damaged, and next time you won't be able to use the ladder. If you inspect it before every use, you'll find that there's a lot of damage taken place. Here we have another clever way, extra smart way of securing the ladder to provide a firm and flat footing, sort of a surface for the pilot to step on when he comes on board. They got this collapsible platform. But then they use the same thing to secure the ladder. See the next picture on the right. When you pilot, he said, lift up this. He asked them to lift it up. And he said, where? Where the ladder not secured only. It's just being jammed by the 2 those drop nose pins, locking pins. That's all that is being just the lid isn't put off and put the locking pins, and the ladder is jammed underneath that. Not correct. Unsafe. Here, left hand side, they're using a crossbar. Again, the weight is coming on the step and the fixtures, not on the side ropes. Not safe, not allowed. Why? It will damage the ladder. The next thing you won't have a ladder which is not fit, it will be unfit for use. The right hand one is, well, they have jammed the spreader against the ship's railing, thinking that is enough. Obviously, very wrong. They have, as an extra measure, they put 2 shackles, but that also is wrong. So then, what's the right way? The right way is for securing ladder intermediate lengths is a very simple rolling hitch method. Based on best practice, it takes into consideration the fact that the design and construction of the ladder makes the side ropes of the ladder the primary weight-bearing part of the ladder. So you should understand that the side ropes are the ones which are supposed to take all the weight forces, because the side ropes are made of rope which of minimum breaking load of at least 24 kilonewtons, roughly 2.4 tons. Whereas the steps with the fixtures, that is the chocks with seizing or clamps, whatever, are tested to a proof load of just 8.8 kilonewtons, about 900 kilos. The pilot doesn't weigh 900 kilos, he weighs 90 kilos, but what something called impulse forces are there, hammer forces, jhatkas. So 900 kilos they have applied just for the safety. But that's not enough. That can cause damage. That's not in. Where is 2.4 tons and where is 900 kg? So the rolling edge method, what it does is, it secures to the ship's deck on strong points in such a way that all forces are transferred fully to the strongest part, that is the side ropes. In this way, what happens? The steps, spreaders, or chocks are never used to bear the weight force exerted, since they're not designed for this. And here, what do we say by weight? Not the pilot's weight, is hardly 90 kilos, but the much higher forces generated by the weight of the pilot boat, partly, not the whole weight, partly transferring to the ladder, when the ladder is jammed between the boat and the ship side in wave action. We'll see it in more clear terms by a few sketches. So that's why all the other methods like shackles, bars, tongues should never be used. They will damage your ladder. And when you have a damaged ladder, you're not supposed to deploy it. You're supposed to say, condemn it and put a new ladder from your stores. And answer your owners why keep on buying ladders every 3 months. Here, the rolling edge method. I will show you a picture, but what is it? This is the kind of best practice which we are recommending, that you have 2 dedicated strops of the same size of rope as the side ropes, MBL 24 kilonewtons. And if you put them on shackles, also keep them dedicated, and your thimble eye is made. So then it just becomes a matter of shackling on those strops on one end to the deck at the designated points, and other end you will go rolling hitch onto the side ropes. And when ladder has been put in storage, so can these strops and be saved from weather damage. And you can have certificates to back them up. That's what is going to come very soon. Your ladder certified, and what about your securing ropes? What about them? They should not be the weak link. They all should be certified. So must the shackles, and so on. Paper trail is very important. So here is how it looks when you apply the rolling hitch on the left hand side. The rolling hitch you can see, here it is. The other end is made fast, secured to the ship's deck. That is not shown in the picture, but it's secured to the ship's deck. On the right hand side is more clear. Here they have not had dedicated ones. They have just put a simple rope. This end also been tied by a hitch to the strong point. Good enough. But after 1 or 2 uses, this rope also will get damaged, and then you have to throw it away. So better to have a proper thimble-eyed one, which will last for a long time. This part, the other end, the rolling hitch part, that won't get damaged, because that only applies a grip. It doesn't get pinched like on the eye, on the ship's eye, pad eye. It won't get damaged there. You put a thimble eye, that also will last for a very long time, your securing strops. Obviously, you must have them at equal length. Otherwise, if your securing rope is long and short, you'll have a slanted ladder. Not good. You have to be steps have to be parallel and level. Very simple to make the hitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. The steps are there. You learn it within half a minute. Practice. Within half a minute, you know how to do it. Left hand, right hand, you'll know how to do. So here we are going to talk to the next part about securing the ladder to the correct height. If it's a bit shorter, it's not an issue. The pilot doesn't use actually the lowermost step to step on. He uses the one above, or maybe the one more further above that. Okay, mostly the one above. And when the boat is up and down, jumping, he maybe uses the second above. So if it's slightly short, doesn't matter. But if it's long, it can make problems. A little bit long, maybe a problem, okay, but too long, it will be lots of problems. So what happens? The pilot boat rolls over, it jams the ladder between the ship side and its fender, and when the wave action causes it to tip, the bump force, you can see in the sketch, there's a horizontal component and there's a downward vertical component. That downward vertical component is far, far more than the 8.8 kilonewtons proof load of the steps. So those steps will be wrenched loose or dislodged from their fittings by that hard jam kind of a force of the one jhatka of the pilot boat. You'll have one or two steps which are wrenched loose. And the next time the ladder won't be usable because you can't repair it on board. You have to, those fixtures, this is no longer allowed. You cannot do the seizing, you cannot do clamping. You have to replace the ladder. On top it looks like this. The left hand picture, upper one, figure 2. That's how the ladder was before the bump force, secured wrongly with 2 shackles. And then in the lower part, figure 3, you have the bump force acting on one of the side ropes. Very unlikely that the bump force act equally on both the side ropes. So we are assuming that the one which is upper one side rope, that's where it's acted, and it has caused this fixture to get loosened, and the rope has paid out partly till the 2 steps that come close together, and the one which are outboard, those steps have gone further apart, slanted. And the right hand picture shows you the ladder was fine earlier, and after that one jerk by the pilot boat, that's what has happened to the ladder. The pilot may have climbed up, but then after that your ladder has become useless for further use very soon. If you're lucky, maybe a little bit, but if you do it very often, you're going to run out of ladders. So how do you remedy this? How do you ensure that your ladder is at the correct length? This is a requirement that when the ladder is supplied to you, manufacturing, that's the standard of ISO standard, even SOLAS, that the ladder needs to be marked at regular intervals. You can see there on the fixture it is marked 12 meters. So every meter will be marked. So you have to make a calculation like it's shown on the right hand box. Just an example. 12 meters height of access point above waterline. Height desired by the pilot is 4 meters water. So the length of ladder deployed is 8 meters. So over the side, from the ship side, where you, at that point onward, we measure downward 8 meters. That's where the lower step should end. And below that, you'll have a gap of 4 meters. If you make a calculated rigging, then you're right. Don't make a visual estimate. You always go wrong. And typically, this has to be done by the officer. The crew, if you're very smart, if you taught them, then you might show them, and you might see 1 or 2 times. If they've practiced, they come up with good, proper results. You can check it. Then you can tell them, you know how to do it, so you can do it. Otherwise, it's the responsible officer's duty to make the calculations and ensure that it's at the correct length. The one in red shows you that what happens when you rig a combination ladder where the ladder is suspended underneath the lower platform. Then from where can you measure this height? So for this, ship staff or the management has to have thought about this thing and figure out a procedure and spell it out in your SMS. If it's not there, when you go as chief officers, figure this out and send it as an amendment and follow the procedure so that other people don't make the mistake of making a visual estimate and having an extra long ladder. Crew always try to make it extra long and then use the tripping line. Not good. This is what happens to your ladder when the pilot boat bumps hard and downwards. See, on the sketch I showed you, here the left hand one, here it is. That's how it happens. The spreader, same thing, bump force. A pilot stepping on it has not caused this. It is only the action of the pilot boats. The ladder was too long on some stage. Here, of course, is the extreme case. We don't know when, how it happened, but same thing can happen. Bump force. You see that one rope is broken, not all, because the bump force acts on mostly one, all of it. Where's the pilot? Maybe in the water, we don't know. Let's go on now to low free boats. Here in this picture, there is often actual investigation incident in a pilot who died, a London pilot. This is a launch. You can superimpose on the ship on which he was stepping off after finishing his pilotage. You can see how there's just 800 millimeters clearance between the deck of the boat and the lip of the deck of the ship. 800 mm, that's about 2 feet, and that's quite a lot to jump off. The pilot tried to do that, and he tripped and he fell. What should have been done? Investigation was saying is that the ladder which is shown on the right, pilot ladder, that's superimposed by animation. That's how it should have been rigged. So that, and with a bulwark ladder, of course, to step up. So he has to climb up, and he has 2 stanchions to hold on to, and then while holding the stanchions, he is stepping down like a normal pilot ladder. Till finally he watches the boat and times his jump and he gets off. He doesn't just simply try to step off and he has nothing to hold. When you're stepping off, you got nothing to hold. Your hands are free, your legs are free, basically you got no contact. Whereas the other one, you got 3-point contact before you finally transfer from ship to boat, or vice versa. Who knows, you might just be working on small ships. Don't think I'll never be working on these tiny ships. One day you will. You just might. Here's another case, low freeboard. Pilot looks easy what's happening, but you will find, when I've done this many times, it's difficult. You got no man ropes, nothing to keep your balance. Your arms are at your center of gravity, your hands, and your very risky. You have to be a real supple, strong athlete to do this. Not good. There is no solution here, but I'm just saying you have to be careful. Now, before we go on to the next part, that is combination ladders, you must understand this height above water. Climb. Do we have to consider the climb, or do we have to consider something else? Well, climbing is tiring, yes. But if you fall from a certain height, beyond a certain height, it's lethal. So it is the height of the fall, expected fall, height from which the pilot can be expected to fall, maximum height. That is the governing factor when you want to decide whether you want to rig a plain ladder or a combination ladder. The table just say even from a fall from height of 1 meter, by the time you hit the ground, you are at 16 kilometers per hour. The skull will crack, even at hardly much of speed. And you go further down to 9 meters height, you go to 48 kilometers per hour. That's very high speed. You fall at that speed onto the water, is like landing on concrete. There's no difference between concrete and water. So it is the fall, not the climb or the height of the access point. It is the fall. We will talk about this a little further in some further slides, but it is a fall, potential height from which you can fall. That is what governs combination ladders. So you might say, well, the pilot has asked for a ladder of 4 meters of water, and you calculate your freeboard at the boarding point is about say 10 meters. But he wants the ladder to be 4 meters of water, so 10 minus 4 only 6. So he has to climb only 6 meters. I don't need a combination. No. Because by the time if he climbs onto a ladder, plain ladder, when your freeboard is 10 meters, by the time he reaches the top, and if he so happens to fall from there, so it's lethal for him. He may have climbed only 6, but he'll fall 9 meters. So this is a fall you have to consider, not the climb. There are some confusing words used in the SOLAS regulation, so must be clear. It is the fall we're talking about. The combination ladder is based on the height at which pilot can fall. Let's go on. So the combination ladder, 2 things can happen when the ship rolls, is that the gangway part can swing away from the ship side and hammer back, And the pilot ladder also can swing like a very rope and go around, move around. So two independently moving around things is very dangerous. So both have to be secured, not to each other. There's a practice, some wrong practice developed that, oh, in that case, we'll just lash the lower platform to the pilot ladder itself, and we have both secured. Nothing. If they move together, no problem for the pilot. No. No. Very dangerous. The whole contraption will move back and forth away from the ship side, and very dangerous for the pilot. He'll get shaken off and fall. So it has to be individually secured. The pilot ladder has to be secured to the ship side, and separately the lower platform also should be secured to the ship side. The center picture is showing a good rigging except for the tripping line. Tripping line is leading aft. This is not correct. It should lead forward. Leading aft, when the pilot boat is approaching, it will foul. The pilot boat, something will get caught on the pilot boat. Leading forward, this danger is not there. You can see the lower platform in the second picture is secured to the ship side. They use a magnet. And the pilot ladder is secured at a height about 1.5 meters above the lower platform by two separate magnets. Not just one, both side ropes have to be secured. If you secure only one, again the ladder will twist. And a twisting ladder you cannot climb. Both side ropes have to be secured. See the last picture, when the pilot is trying to come up, he has to pass up. His hands have to go further up till his feet come in level with the lower platform. Only then he can go on to the gangway. That is why the securing of the ladder has to be about 1.5 meters above the lower platform. Here they are shown magnets. Some ships have special sockets designed, recessed into the ship. Those are also good. In fact, in the third picture, somewhere you can see there is one socket already. But that socket is not used because the draft or height of water is not suited for that socket. Here are some good examples. So these are as per the IMO poster. The right hand one from the picture, to me the gangway looks very steep, but we don't know, maybe just the aspect of the photograph. In inclinometer you must watch. They showed you the video. 45 degrees, no, you cannot. You have to adjust the position of the pilot ladder by shifting it further aft so that the gangway can be hoisted more and the angle of the gangway is less, below 45. Then we have another thing about winch reels. Pilot ladder winch reels. Here the main consideration again is the winch reel should not be bearing the weight of the ladder. It should be a strong point on the deck of the ship. So in the poster on the left hand side, they mentioned like pad eyes. So it's a little misleading. This drawing needs to be corrected, and work for correcting this IMO poster is in progress. It suffice to say those pad eyes are not really pad eyes as is shown. They should be proper pad eyes, and they should be secured there. You should put those thimble eyes straps, shackle them there, and other end you will apply a rolling edge onto the ladder, so that there is no weight that comes on the winch reel. Here in the picture, I was talking about, they secured the ladder directly to the ship side, to the ship's deck, but they use shackles. Instead, they should have used the dedicated straps, which I showed you earlier. In the right hand picture again, they've just reeved the pilot ladder rope through one sort of an eye and it's gone to the winch. They're taut and the winch is taking the weight. It's wrong. Here also they should have put the dedicated straps onto this strong point and applied rolling hitches. We have another innovation called the hull door. Those are on very large ships or on ships where it is awkward to have a pilot ladder, winch, and all arrangement installed on deck, especially container ships, is very common, because if you're on top on deck, it's a very precious cargo area. A lot of bays of containers can be used up to this kind of arrangement. So they make a hull door. So it's very clean and neat for cargo storage on top. So also large freeboard ones, like say even car carriers also have this hull door arrangement. Same thing, like in the right hand side they have a winch that should be, ladder must be secured to the deck and no weight should come onto the winch. And whatever winch you're using, remember all these winches, they can be prone to being misused at the wrong time, inadvertent use, so they have to be safety locked. Power, if they're power winches especially, they have to be engaged or safety locked. Even mechanical winches also, you used to have an extra locking all those also. Bottle screws they use, turnbuckles to lash it. So here is the photograph of such an arrangement. It looks fine, except that the pilot ladder needs to be secure to the ship side. Otherwise, you roll around, hang out, you swing up out in the rolling, and they have secured it only on one side rope. Not good. As the pilot comes up, he tries to cross over to the platform. The ladder is going to twist. He'll twist, and he can have a tough time getting on board. Whenever these extra complications arise, that is where a mishap can occur. It should be one smooth climb. It's something like, you're trying to use a staircase, and if one step is uneven, you will find people are tripping and falling over that. So it should be a smooth, even kind of a climb. Hand over hand, quickly up. You said one part is twisting, one step is slanting, something is thick, something is slippery. All complications come. The pilot has to be very ginger and careful. That means great danger. So here, there's a question here. How will you calculate the length of the ladder to be deployed in this arrangement? So freeboard is where? From where? What do you use? What do you use? You take it from the deck above or from the deck of the door. These ships can be very, very high. Even the door can also go very high. So what do you do? And when you load it also, the door can be too low, very close to the water level. Very complicated, these kind of things. Then they make the innovations, but then they don't think it through. And then you have a lot of difficulties. They say, okay, someone will manage. No. It should not be that way. There are some photographs where the hull door opening is a bit too low. The waves are quite high, and literally the officers are jumping back because the sea is going inside while they're waiting for the pilot, or when it's rolling. Well, anyway, those are different issues. Not your fault, not the scope of the lecture. Trapdoors. Really, the word trapdoor means really you're trapped in them at a certain stage. Neither can you go down, you have to go up only and take your chances. Essentially, what happens is here the pilot climbs up, and then you find that from using the grip on the side ropes, he has to shift his grip through some sort of a metal angle bar. Here you can see something is very thick. How can you get your hand hold on to this? No hand can be such a large thing it is. Then you have a horizontal pipe here and here. These are very slippery and round, and they don't give good grip. You hang on the horizontal bar, you have no strength. You hang on to this, you have tremendous grip you can get. You try it. Hang on to a rope this way and hang on to a bar that way, and see how much weight you will use. Your fingers will slip over this. So this is the problem. The transition should be, this ladder should continue further up for a certain distance, and then the pilot should be able to go. Like they shown over here. They made a U-shaped sort of a frame, and the ladder hung on to that. So here you can climb up and you can continue gripping a ladder. So the pilot is smiling. Another good arrangement. Here it is. Same thing from a different view. A nice U frame. He climbs up here enough pilot ladder to grip and he goes on board. Here in more detail, as you can see from the lower platform, this side 1.5 meters, they secure the ladder. Very nice. But some ships don't have this kind of a design, so they have to alter it. So there are 2012 amendments. The SOLA has come over from 2012 on the cutoff date, by which time they have to make these changes. Next survey and special survey, whatever repairs, the thing is there. Quite a complicated who does what, by when, but trapdoors have to be made this way. Defective ones have to change to this. So you find a ship having defective trapdoors, you as chief officer should be raising a defect as item on the defect list and get it repaired. And we come to some other equipment like associated equipment. Man ropes to be rigged only if they're requested. So after rigging them doesn't mean you have to, if you've been requested, doesn't mean that you have to hang them over the side. They have to be deployed only when the pilot asks. Sometimes as precautions, we ask them for you to be prepared so that last minute you're not running around. We prepare the man ropes, but don't deploy them. Deploy them only when the pilot says, well, the seas are very rough, I really require something more to hold on to before I can go on to the pilot ladder. Man ropes sometimes better. Literally like a little bit like Tarzan, you have to go across. And they're mostly used for disembarking. And the bulwark ladder, which is used, the stanchions must not be part and parcel of the bulwark ladder. They have to be separate piece of equipment. The bulwark ladder is separate and the stanchions are separate. The stanchions must extend 1.2 meters above the top of the bulwark or bulwark ladder, so that you have sufficient height for the pilot to climb up before he can cross over from the ladder onto the deck. So, question: what should be the length of ladder you require? From where do you count the length? From top of the bulwark or from the deck, the freeboard at the boarding point? Top of the bulwark, because the pilot will have to climb up to the top, and if he were to lose his footing, he will fall from top of the bulwark. He is not going to fall from the deck. Deck is 1 meter below, further. So that is the way the height you should calculate to decide whether it should be a plain ladder or a combination. So I'm emphasizing it is the potential height from which the pilot falls. So he is going to fall from top of the bulwark. So that is what you should be thinking when you decide whether to rig a combination or not. I had one ship where we were borderline, so what I got the staff and office to do, we just cut opening a gate. We made a gate and then we had a problem was solved. Otherwise, we had to take heavy ballast. A lot of problems, a lot of issues, notice of readiness not be given, so on and so forth. Here the commercial pressure we can come. Innovation was made, we cut a gate. So then immediately this 9 meter thing about combination ladder was aborted. We were very like a shuttle service it was, so very frequently the issues to arise. So we solved it permanently by making a gate. Gate means that way the freeboard is measured from the deck, not from top of the bulwark. So 1 meter, you save, you're not taking heavy ballast, useful. Safe approach. The fenders, permanent fenders, well, they serve a purpose for the regular use of the ship. They have some strength aspects and also some areas where they require this to avoid repeated damage to the ship side. So they have the fenders, permanent fenders. But then they have to be made properly, not like on the right-hand side. When the pilot boat approaches in a sea, the waves are there, these fenders are known to jam the pilot boat's bulwark fendering, and when the ship rises or boat goes this way, it pushes so hard that the pilot boat capsizes or it gets seriously damaged, crushed. The edge gets crushed. Not good at all. And a heavy, jarring shock, and people on deck can be shaken from their footing and fall in the water. Very dangerous. So 6 meters clearance, that much is required minimum, so that the boat coxswain can be confident that he will be managed to keep the pilot safe and boat safe while the transfer is going on. Again, if this kind of thing situation you find, you must have it fixed. Don't just say, oh, it's been there for such a long time, so it must be okay. No. Now you know 6 meters hai kya, nahi hai, you must get it fixed. Send a defect. Raise a defect. Little bit of the tripping line. We already seen why you should lead forward. And as far as possible, avoid using it. Tripping line is not meant for, picking up the extra length ladder you put. That's not the purpose. Purpose of tripping line is once the use is over, you have been asked to secure the ladder to pick it up back on deck. That's all it is. You're not supposed to adjust the height of the lowermost step for boarding using a tripping line. That is bad practice. It is far, far too common. First thing you go on board, you get your tripping lines corrected and tell the crew you're not supposed to use it. You're only for picking it up after the pilot is boarded. Well, I was going to show you one more video, then we'll talk about question and answers from the base of the video. This is what happens when the ladder is too long, far too long. Ladder is getting damaged. Steps are fixed, small. Can't see it, but every time you do this, this is what's going to happen. You look at the officers. The crew are there and officers. All wearing all safety gear, but there's a lot of fundamental mistakes. Where is the ladder secured? It is secured to the stanchion here, and it's got an eye on the stanchion. So the ladder rope is secured by shackle to this stanchion. This is not a strong point on deck. And it's a fixed length that the ladder has been supplied from with a thimble eye and this amount of extra rope and all the way down to the lower step. So it's a fixed length. So this length, whatever this may have been there for when the ship is in light condition. Of course, there's a passenger ship, whatever, but something very wrong with this length of the ladder supplied. Passenger ships don't change their draft too much. This is the Disney fantasy. Very beautiful luxury cruise ship. But their drafts don't change. But surprisingly, this ladder is supplied, which is too long. And nobody has a clue here. The crew doesn't have a clue as to how and why, what's wrong here. And here, unfortunately, pilot may be knowing, but here properly he's putting his safety aside and trying to get the job done. We are being charitable here, but quite often pilots themselves are also not aware of the bad things which are being observed. Lack of knowledge and poor practices. They're making fast the pilot ladder wrongly. A wrong length ladder is used, and this is what the problems are. Watch. Using ladder like an that is shift the ladder. Hang. Some of the things manage and easier to you all keep a sigh of relief. That's not right. That's the right. Right? So that brings me to the end of my presentation. I will stop sharing.
Fantastic lecture. Yep.
Yes. So we can we can invite some questions now if you all have any questions. I've finished my lecture, especially the last video. I just brought it yesterday. Today I saw it. Captain Gajanan actually forwarded it to me. So I had a look at it, and this really shows that if you don't bring the ladder correctly, the kind of things which happens. It's just a matter of luck that the pilot managed to board onto the Disney fantasy. It could have been a bad case of different way, where the pilot was in the water, or somebody or the crew was in the water, or whatever.
Oh, one of the pilots made a comment on this
I
video.
can't hear you, Captain Gajanan. You're muted.
No, I'm okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah. So one of the pilots made a comment on this video and was so disheartening for me that he said every time, I mean, this is a profound statement for all the people who are on board and should be repeated, probably stenciled somewhere, you know. This is what the pilots think. Every time he boards the vessel and disembarks, he considers himself very lucky. I mean, you know, no profession in the world gives this kind of, you know, I mean, you know, you remember those, I don't know if these boys remember or not, but this Bombay blast thing, you know, used to happen every year.
Yeah.
All the wives used to think when the husband is going back to work, going to the work in Churchgate, Nariman Point, VT, will he come back? Very dangerous situation. This is a very uncivilized work or way of living life, you know. And when these comments are passed on with the ship's crew, my heart really bleeds. I said, my ship's crew cannot be so ignorant of life. I mean, due diligence is the next step, but at least respecting life is in our hands, and we all should do that, you know.
Well, do the boys have any questions?
Yeah.
They have-
Class, any questions from your end, please? Please feel free to ask.
Are they still absorbing things? I can understand. A lot of things have been thrown at them very fast. In Zoom classes, we really zoom ahead. Unlike in physical classes, we can go back and we can see the faces where some eyes are going glassy-eyed, some people are looking somewhere here, there. We don't know what is happening. I hope everybody has absorbed something out of it. I mean, a lecture, so we know, everybody knows. Yeah, Captain Gajan also, he's a speaker, he knows the audience, sometimes their attention wavers. So, any questions? Do you have some experience like this to share? Anybody?
The Sarir, you can announce that anybody who asks questions gets 5 marks grace.
No, something which strikes you, something which you well.
Let's not even, I'm talking positively, let's not penalize, not less marks. I'm saying give more marks.
Oh, marks.
Positive psychology is very important.
Positive marks.
So they send their questions as a chat, isn't it?
No, they're free to ask. Anybody wishes to ask a question, please feel free.
Yeah. We have a good 10.
Sarir is going to give you 5 marks extra, guys. Shoot a question.
Yes, I'm known for my benevolence.
Liberal mark giving, is it?
I'm known for my benevolence.
Well, the last video there, everybody is in all spit polish uniforms. When you see the rest, it's such bad seamanship. Huh? And they had no clue. SOLAS regulations been there for a long time. Secured to strong point on deck. Where the staunch is not a strong point on deck.
Yeah.
Anyway, and they are really hanging around, just trying to pass the ladder, holding it and trying to pass the ladder itself to the pilot. Horrible, horrible. All around. Not good. Well, so the students still watching, or looks like there are no questions coming forth?
Just any other questions from the class, please?
If there are any
Please feel
faculty
free.
who are watching, if they have any questions,
Yeah.
welcome. If there are any
We have faculties also watching.
probably some food for thought, some questions, or very basic stuff was mostly talked.
Captain Sunil Bhava is there.
Oh, hello.
Sir, good morning, everyone. The lecture was quite a bit in detail, so there are no questions at all. It was very beautifully explained.
All right.
The presentation was excellent. That's all I would say.
Okay. Nice to hear.
Captain Ajay Puri is also there.
Okay.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. It was a very good presentation because I am teaching safety for phase 1.
Right.
And I taught for pilot ladder. But the points you have discussed are much more. Because you've touched the finer points,
Yeah.
which are more practical. And I hope the students, when they become chief officer, they ponder on these points, because I believe my batchmates are also pilots, and they have the reliance, and that is what the nature of pilots are: how to climb and how to get off the ship. So that is the point of concern for all, and we as seafarers also have to be concerned on the pilots, not to disregard just we are keeping the norm and that's it. We have to regard regarding safety, so that both the pilot and we ourselves are safe, and the maritime industry is also safe. So I believe this lecture which you've given has boosted the confidence in all. And of course, practically everyone, even for the orals, writtens, and their practical experience in sea, it will affect. Not
Good.
only for exam,
I'm
but
glad.
for everything. Thorough.
Actually,
Thank you again.
my experience also has been that to bring about certain changes to wrong practices, it's difficult. Now, these young officers, when they go on board, they have to bring about change on the ships. They have to push their bosuns and the other officers, even the masters also. Well, what is this? Why are you getting so particular about it? Why are you insisting? Why are you insisting on that? He said, no, we have to rig the ladder at the correct length. We have to secure the ladder with the rolling hitch. We have to do this. We have to do that. And this is as I was taught. I was taught at ARI by a something person who was an experienced pilot. This is not somebody talking out of his hat. But you have to be the agent of change. You have to have the courage to do it. That's the only way you can change the culture. Otherwise, you can just say, well, somebody else can do it. You should do the
One
change.
point which was come to me is
I had to do the same thing within the port also. Unfortunately, you see, even within our port, a group of pilots, there are some fellows who say, oh, this Captain Pande got a bee in his bonnet about this and that. But other fellows, usme kya hai? Let's do it. That's also an issue. But I'm glad to say, after being 10 years over there, we left behind some systems over there, laid down systems where now everything unknowingly they are enjoying the fruits of those good systems now. They are so much safer. I can just say, all right, I left behind a good system. Insisted. Even 10 years now, later on, they say Captain Pande is coming to Pipavav Port. They also are running here and there. Better get his things right. He should not be shambles. They should be running around. So it is there still. That thing is there. That thing is being carried on over there. They remember.
So one question I have
Yes.
is why the pilot hoist, which was there in our time, was discontinued. Why was the pilot hoist, which was earlier in our time, discontinued?
Well, I have not seen. I can
Mechanical
imagine.
pilot hoist. You
Any kind of mechanical thing. A lot of failures can occur. You know about these, lifeboats. These what do you call, enclosed lifeboats, which you can lower from within the boat itself. The whole mechanism, and the quick release hooks, automatic release hooks. So those things have caused so many accidents. But absent anything else, and the whole thing is gone as a standard kind of equipment in all shipyards. So people have to make do with them. But given a choice, seafarers will say, bring back the open boats with an ordinary kind of way of lowering. We don't want all these enclosed boats. The same thing with pilot hoists. Pilots now say, just do away with them. Too many accidents, too much of maintenance, too much of, follow-up, safe working load, winch test, brake test, this test, that test. Too many moving parts. The simpler the system, the more robust it is. So pilot ladder is very, very basic, low tech, robust. You get it right, it's very safe. You can see thousands and thousands of movements take place all over the world at any given time, daily. Done well, done okay through the pilot ladder. But pilot hoists, far too many accidents were occurring. So I said, just do away with them. Do away.
The second part, I think, is because of the air supply.
I just want to add to your question, if I may.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in shipping, the innovation, has always occurred after the accident.
Yes.
There hasn't been a research going on. So, I'm proud to say and make a statement now that AIMPA is also involved with, some of the international agencies now to suggest innovation to pilot ladder security to mitigate the risk. And we will start the competitions with the MTIs opening up this October 2021. and it will be announced by IMU and the IPA. But idea I was telling you was that mechanical pilot hoist also was a, like any other regulations, coming up after the accident. So trigger point where in any industry there's an accident, then there's going to be an alternative which is not so well tested. And as Captain Pande very rightly said, rope and wood kind of thing is been going on for last 300 years. The only thing is that, that process is not yet defined well. Now, as he speaks, as we give this lecture today, even Solas does not mention of rolling hitch. I'm so surprised about it. I mean, they don't want to commit themselves. What is it? Guys, I mean, you got a life on the ladder.
No,
Please,
here I'll interrupt here. The rolling hitch is a best practice. There have been tests carried out by one Captain Troy Evans, a New Zealand pilot. He did on his own. He used a testing machine and he, under some good conditions, controlled conditions, did some tests, all kind of tests. And the conclusion was that amongst the various securing methods, the rolling hitch also is prone to some difficulties, but it causes the least damage to the ladder, to the side, to the fixture, and so on and so forth. It prolongs the life of the ladder, so you can use it again. But as far as slippage is concerned, then okay. But shackles, tongues, spreaders, railing, those are totally out. In absent, but there is no supporting regulations. So what is the best thing we can do right now, urgently, to save lives? The amending SOLAS, getting all the regulations done is very, very long. So faster way to do is this, what we are doing. We are having a campaign, and rolling hitch is the best one. It is for the technical committee of IMO and SOLA people to figure out, do all the scientists and all the engineers involved and do all the proper tests and find out which is the best way. But absent that effort, we find the rolling hitch is better, the best. And if somebody has said, well, how do you say rolling hitch? We can counteract him. You suggest something better. You suggest something better, and we will do it.
he had some second question, Captain Puri. You had some second question.
Yeah, I said, I believe one more thing was there for phasing out is air supply. Because the crucial air supply was required for movements.
And
when you give to the hoist, that's the problem.
He left.
That's why
dangling. Left dangling.
Tricks of the trade, huh?
Tricks of the trade.
No, can you imagine the air supply goes and the pilot is halfway hoisted and he's
Right. That's what happened. That is the part he's hanging through. Then he can't climb up. He can't climb down. That was the problem.
There's no escape.
So they say, don't fear, blame the engineer.
Well, now
the ship owners then phased it out.
There is also talk about this combination ladder, especially these trapdoor arrangements, where the whole ladder hanging on the lower platform. It is not separately attached to the ship's deck. It is hanging on the lower platform. Now that is not a securing, and that's not a strong point on deck. Sola says strong point, na? The ladder is not secured to a strong point. The lower portion of the trapdoor, lower platform is not a strong point. So whole weight is coming on the falls of the gangway. Now if that were to part, or that, like you say, happen, what happens? So there's afoot, there are thinking, you must have a preventer wire to prevent that whole thing, contraption falling into the water. You have a preventer wire, the suspension point for the combination ladder gangway. That also is there, that feedback is coming among the pilots that this should be there. Some fallback should be the preventer wire. So even the trapdoor arrangement, I see, how do you say it's secured on deck, but here you found the ladder hanging under the lower platform, shackles there.
Now the Maersk has come up with a new design on this thing, and USCG has approved it.
Yeah.
Probably they are passing it to the various associations of pilots where they can agree, and I believe mostly the European Union also is going to agree with the design what they have. They have fabricated a stanchion, on top of the lower platform, which is a robust thing. And I mean, it has to be fixed and unfixed. So the USCG is now worried whether American crew can do that, with their with their fair amount of intelligence and hard work capacity. So that's the question in the ground now, going around the circles in the pilotage community. There's something will happen by end of this month because Maersk has taken it to the USCG. So Maersk, because they had 2 deaths in last 2 years consecutively on the trapdoor. but not though both the deaths were due to the trapdoor arrangements. Of course, 30% contribution was that. See, people forget one thing, which is, which what goes on pilot's mind when he's boarding the vessel. So instead of making things easy for him, there's already a lot going on in his mind. The minute he boards pilot board, his mind is on the bridge. And he's thinking as to, what data and what crew and what BRM and what BTM and what engine condition and what history of the vessel and things like that, So with this set of mind, occupied mind of his, when he climbs the pilot ladder, and most of the accidents, if you do some little study, you'll understand most of the accidents have happened while disembarking. Because, he's trying to switch off. When he finishes his job, accomplishes the feather touch berthing or anchoring or whatever it is, his mind goes to switch off and goes back home for his commitments. And that's time, he misses those kind of familiarizations, with the safeties of his own.
Another aspect is you have a poorly rigged ladder. It's poorly rigged, so you have to make a decision. Do I tell the ship I can't use it, or should I somehow get on board and do the job, and then afterwards tell the ship's captain that look, this is wrong? Or sometimes the reason the fear plays on the mind that, well, the ship has already come late or it has come too further up inside the pilot, beyond the pilot station. He has misjudged his arrival for various reasons. Then the ship may have already reached its abort point. So the pilot casts caution to the wind and he somehow goes on board a ship using a very dilapidated ladder to save the ship, to save the port or whatever. So these are the kind of things which happen, and you come on board a ship on the bridge that way, and you can imagine your kind of mood which you're in. So here you just had maybe your store of lives in your pocket. One more life you used up, your bit of luck is used up. And you have to get on with the movement. And when things are finished, and then you say, well, now what's the use? I have to go for the next ship, and that issue is left aside. And is left aside. And then you find the ship going out and the pilot objects, and the pilot captain can say, well, the pilot who berthed us had no problem. What's wrong with you? Yeah. Small ships I have boarded in PIPA or NBCs. Very, very dangerous thing there. Very dangerous. They used to do this lighterage to bigger ships for steel coils, and they would have these huge tractor tires fitted on them. And they had to placed on board with JCBs. Now, they had come to PIPA with those same tractor tires to load clinker. So, because waiting for the next orders, jao zara clinker bhar ke aao. One quick trip that way from Hazira, come there, load clinker. But that big tractor tire is still there, right next to the pilot boarding place. It's so big that the pilot boat has to dodge it. They don't think of shifting the ladder further ahead. This is NBC. You could easily do it, not very difficult. But the crew won't think along these lines. You go out there, you're not supposed to have this. Or they will put the ladder somewhere where there's a big sort of a discharge, water discharging from a scupper in the monsoon. They don't plug it. It's falling right on top of the ladder. These are all the small things. When the last slide of which I showed about safe approach, it's a matter of mentality. Somehow it's a small thing. They do all kind of wrong practices. They hop across, jump across without any life jacket between the boats and NBCs. They are very bad practices which take place in these coastal ships. But then coastal law, that doesn't recognize, you are a pilot, you're going to fall. You can fall from not only from a foreign going ship, you can fall from a coastal ship also. So where the practices are abysmal. So I don't know many of these phase 2 boys, is any of them working on coastal ships. So you never know if you just want some sea time or you're running short of money, you want to make a quick job somewhere here and there. OSVs, and some of them might be working on OSVs, they are very low freeboard ships. Very difficult, very tricky. Things can happen in a flash. And either you lost a leg, or you're crushed, or you're fallen. It can happen. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Gentlemen, for paying attention. I haven't seen any of your faces, but still, yeah. I hope you're looking at the screen and not elsewhere.
Thanks for a lovely lecture, sir, as usual. And it's been very enlightening for all of us.
when can we do this again? Would you like to? You can.
Yes, I'll discuss that.
You have cadets as well, no sir? You have the cadets
Yeah,
as well.
we have the cadets as well. I'll plan
Admissions
something.
are over or is going on still?
No. I'll plan something with them. I'll find out their schedule, and when they're
You
away
will
from.
merge the campuses, so
Right.
maximum people get the benefit out of it.
Yeah, sure.
Because
So-
it is really important to take it to them because nobody will teach them. I'm sure about it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
not
of
for
course.
MTIs.
Right.
MTI can have only limited exposure to pilot ladder.
Absolutely,
But even
absolutely.
the on ship, bosun, chief officer, masters don't have time for all this.
So I'll organize one session with the cadets. Let me just find out the campus
Please,
schedule.
please.
They should be just.
These cadets will be the ones who have already been at sea at Sanjeev ships or
No.
pre-sea cadets.
They'll be the pre-sea cadets.
So they wouldn't have actually been on board. They have no idea of any pilot ladder. It's all theoretical for them. No?
It'll be all theoretical for them. The only thing is, practically, they're doing it in campus
Yeah,
these
they have
days.
seen the pilot ladder because they have a pilot ladder in MTIs.
So you have like a demo.
Yeah.
They have a pilot ladder. They also teach them how to rig and all that,
So
how to
that-
use it and things like that, but not like over the side and things like that.
So
Yeah,
my lecture is designed only for phase 2, so I have to make a different set of material I have to prepare.
Yeah.
So that goes not too many issues. I go more with basics. What a
Correct.
ladder looks like, construction, and why and what, and that's all.
Yeah, I'll organize that. Let me just find out because these boys have come in the campus for practical exercises
Right.
Sure.
and for practical rigging. So I'll find that out and I'll revert back to you, and then we'll organize something for sure.
Right, sir. Thank you very much.
Well,
Most
thank you,
welcome.
Captain Puri,
Thank
Captain
you,
Baba.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank
Even
you, sir.
Baba, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
sir.
you,
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, sir.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye, sir. See you.
Bye, sir.